This public hearing of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 5:38 p.m. I am very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. I'll start with Mr. Diaz.
Rafael Diaz, present.
Ms. King.
Shatanya King, present.
Ms. Canoyer.
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Jennifer Rodriguez, present.
Ms. Eaton.
Deborah Eaton, present.
Ms. Eaton is joining us via Zoom, and I am Renee Pichelle, present. To my immediate left is our superintendent of schools, Dr. Jeanette Ball. Who did I forget?
Nope.
Ms.
Welcome.
I didn't. Okay. I thought I did. Thank you, Ms. McKinney, though. I need somebody to keep me on my toes.
Welcome,
to my
everybody.
immediate left is Dr. Jeanette Ball. Okay, at this time, Dr. Ball, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So we have an obligation to give you this information from this report. The interesting situation is that this report is not updated and has not changed because if you remember this silly thing called COVID, and I shouldn't call it a silly thing, it's very serious, but we still have to give you this information so you are not looking at any new information. So I'm going to ask Ms. Davis to please give us some points.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ball. Good evening. The Texas, may I remove this?
Yes.
We are required to provide a public hearing for the Texas Academic Performance Report. Because of STAR, most of the report is slated, not rated. We have a declared state of disaster. But there are just a few sections that I will review with you, so do expect a very short taper report presentation today. Please note that due to the cancellation of the spring STAR assessment due to COVID-19, the performance section of this year's report is not updated, but TA has awarded all school districts an accountability rating of not rated, declared state of disaster. We're required to report to you that our accreditation status is still accredited, and that takes into account the first ratings, which are the financial ratings, as well as our PEIMS reporting, and usually the accountability rating. I would like to remind everybody that even though we are not rated because of COVID, the previous year we had an increase of 11 points from a 72 to an 83, and our district rating overview was that of a B, and I think that is worth noting.
Yes.
Our total enrollment is 22,848. This part of the report is updated, so you can see that over the years we've had an increase in our attendance. We did have almost a 3% increase in ECODIS students. We remained steady with our ELs with a slight increase and a slight decrease of at-risk students. Our ethnic distribution is mostly Hispanic students at about 58%. With African American at 21%, followed by our white population at about 15%. Here you can see that our CTE programs, our bilingual and gifted and talented special education programs have had a slight increase in enrollment. Our teacher ethnic distribution is usually compared to the state, and you can see that we're fairly comparable with our teacher ethnic distribution as well as the teacher years of experience. One of the things that I recall when I first arrived at the school district 3 years ago was that the board tasked the district administration to make sure that we decreased the teacher turnover rate so that we did better on that performance. And I am very happy to report that JISD compared to the state is doing much, much better. And so you can see that that is a steady decrease in teacher turnover rate. This is a good time when you want to hear a decrease, and we have done so steadily over the last 3 years under the direction of Dr. Ball and Mr. Marco Garcia. The attendance rate and dropout rates, here you can see the comparison from this year to the previous years. And again, they have remained fairly steady. Please note that attendance rates never include pre-K or kinder because they are not required attendance. It does not have compulsory attendance. Our graduation rate here, the taper report focuses on the 4-year longitudinal rate, which when there is an accountability rating, it is included within our rating. We do have an 88.6% of our students that met their 4-year longitudinal rate, which means that they remained with their cohort from the year that they started back in 2015, 2016. Our college readiness indicators, you can see that 42.5% of our high school students completed and received credit for at least one or more advanced dual enrollment courses in grades 9 through 12. This is a good increase by 3.5%. Our AP and IB results remained fairly steady at 15.3% participation of students in grades 11 and 12, and 34.8% of students taking the exams met or exceeded the exam criterion. One of the things that we did see a hefty increase was that of students in college, career, and military readiness indicators. Specifically, you can see that from 2018 to 2019, we had a 13% increase. In college-ready graduates, you can see an increase in the associate's degree, as well as the dual credit criteria that was earned by our students in TSI. But most specifically, you will see that our career and military graduates had an increase of 21.1% in this last school year. So there was a focus and an increase on students receiving their CTE coherent sequence and their coursework that is aligned with industry-based certifications. And you can see that there was an increase and a special focus on that by our CTE program. We're also required to report to you, and this part is updated, the high schools, the students' performance once they are enrolled in a post-secondary institution during their first year of enrollment for those which we can find data. And so what you see here is a distribution of the students that enrolled in a 4-year public university, those enrolled in 2-year in independent colleges and universities, those who were not trackable, not found, and total high school graduates of 1,480 that we were able to find and track in a post-secondary institution. Keep in mind that if the students moved out of state, that is not reported in this Texas Academic Performance Report. We're also required to share with you the number of violent or criminal incidents. This report is found in our taper as well as displayed in our public website for you, and we see the comparisons from year to year. We like to focus on the prevention and interventions, which are usually handled by our Director of Student Services under the direction of Dr. Fields. We do have a crisis management plan that addresses policies and procedures within our district that include a campus emergency operations plan, a student code of conduct, safety drills, and periodic safety meetings with each campus crisis management team. One of the things that we have had in place, of course, is our Raptor system that alerts any registered sex offenders. We have a Judson Police Department that works hand in hand with our Pupil Services Department, and they meet periodically with administrators to ensure that we have a unified emergency response system. We also have an adopted student code of conduct that sets forth the rules and expectations of all of the Judson ISD students, and this is updated yearly. Our administrators are required to thoroughly investigate all bullying accusations in a uniform manner, and they receive training by Walsh and Gallegos. They review a thorough packet that includes investigation questions so that we can have uniform and consistency when conducting investigations. They have stay-away agreements and letters for parents and the alleged victims of the alleged bullying. All of our administrators are also trained on the David's Law and how to respond in the event of reported bullying or harassment. Our counseling and guidance department works hand in hand with the student pupil services as well as our administrators. And they work to assist campuses in preventing discipline through the following manners: focusing on social emotional learning, providing guidance lessons to our students, especially at the earlier grade levels, teaching character traits, providing counseling services with students that have excess number of discipline referrals, peer mediation, anger management, positive behavior rewards, and our social worker services really do so much for our students. Any additional information in these taper reports after they have been presented to the board will be uploaded to our district website and are available for the entire public. All campus improvement plans are also posted as required by the state, and you can contact me or any one of our directors or administration team if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Ms. Davis, I'd like to thank you and your team for all the hard work that you continue to do, especially pivoting to the virtual education that we have had to do. You have done a magnificent job in making sure that we do our very best to make sure our students have that proper education. So thank you. And as a result, we went to a B, and we all hope to sustain our B.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's always a collaborative effort among everybody, our teachers and our staff. So thank you very much.
Does that conclude?
Ma'am, unless you or the board have any questions, that is the conclusion of the presentation.
And is there any discussion or any questions from any board members? And since it is a public hearing, is there anybody in the public?
They could ask if they'd
Yes.
like.
Since this is a public hearing, anyone in the public that has any questions, you may approach the podium at this time.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
So is the guidance that we've received from TEA that next year we should have data, or how is that going to work?
Well, it's going to be very hard to tell what the data will look like and what will really happen, because a lot of students will not be testing. So I don't know if they've shared what it's going to be like yet for next year. Have they?
They will update the taper and we will have data, but there will be no accountability ratings. So the system of accountability is very specific. They won't implement any of that, and they still won't rate the school districts this year, but there will be data. Specifically today, the Commissioner of Education shared that we can expect to see a decrease across the state of Texas because students have already, we've seen a huge slide just from March through summer, and they're still working on sharing data of what that COVID slide will look like this year. So we are expecting decreases, unfortunately, but we're also going to focus on a plan of action to make sure that we're able to meet the students where they are at. We have many students that did implement virtual, and even though we provided hotspots and one-to-one, there's still problems with connectivity. Nevertheless, that's why we're focusing on our summer schools. That's why we're going to do two plans. We're going to focus on a plan of action for extended school year next year and start that early instead of waiting for the second semester. We're also going to ensure that our curriculum unit guides embed strategies for struggling learners and that focus on those gaps. So sometimes we have to go back to basics and really focus on those discrete skills that our students will need as we continue to move forward. But yes, there will be data. Sorry, that was your actual question.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis.
Thanks.
So here's another question, and you all guide us, right? So in the absence of that data, but knowing that we have the local benchmarking assessments and other mechanisms to understand trends, right, for better instruction, I guess, how can the board look at that? Not so much for overview, but rather for determination of where we need to deploy resources, and then really understand the student population, right? So can we do that?
Absolutely. I think it's a value-added type system that we have to look at to make sure that where every child comes in, that we're adding value to them and that we're still seeing progress being made. So I know that Ms. Davis's department runs extensive reports and looks at that data, and most importantly, not only runs the report, but expects changes from that data to be made, because we do have, even for our bilingual students, our special ed, all our students, we have a plan in place to capture, to see where they're at. Everything from the beginning of, I think it's called BYO, beginning of the year assessment.
BOY,
Thank you. So absolutely. So Ms. Davis, you want to speak about that a little bit more?
Yes, if you recall, we normally share with you an accountability report in August. So we will provide STAR. The students who come and take STAR on campus, we will still get that data. And we will still receive data that we can share with you. There won't be an accountability rating tied to it. There won't be additional metrics tied to it, but we will share with you the explicit raw data of where our students are at for those who did test. There is a window. There's an opportunity for makeup. We're actually extending to our parents and to our campuses. We're going asynchronous on those dates so that parents who, fear COVID and don't want to ensure that our students aren't crowded, as we're asking our virtual students to come in and test, we're letting them know that only those who are testing are going to be on campus. So we're taking measures to try and get that data for the entire year. But we don't wait for the entire year for that to happen. In order to really assess where we are in the curriculum, there's always formative assessments that we do offer and that we can share.
Any
Ms.
more
Davis,
questions? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Ms. Eaton.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can use the information more as a self-check for the district then, right?
Yes, ma'am. That is exactly how we should use it.
Oh, great, great. Oh, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
anyone else? Well, if there's no other discussion, thank you so much, Ms. Davis, for
Thank
your
you very
report
much.
and your hard work.
Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions or comments, then at this time, 5:55, this public hearing is adjourned.